Well, it wasn't even close in the end, though that's what pollsters had predicted. Each one of the 7 swing states is forecasting a Trump victory. It's unprecedented, with the Republican candidate even winning the popular vote. The 2024 United States presidential election became one of the most intense and unpredictable in recent history. From Donald Trump's courtroom battles and a bullet grazing his ear to a dramatic debate that dashed incumbent President Joe Biden's hopes of re-election, the campaign has been filled with unprecedented events. Kamala Harris's late entry into the race added another twist, keeping the world's attention riveted on the unfolding drama. The election's intensity went far beyond American borders, making headlines worldwide. In the end, Donald Trump triumphed over Kamala Harris in a fiery contest. Trump claimed victory in all 7 key swing states, securing his place in history as the second president only to win the White House for a non-consecutive term. The last time that this happened was in the 1800s, when Grover Cleveland served as the 22nd and then 24th president during the Civil War era. Trump's victory was marked by strong wins across more than 30 states, including pivotal battlegrounds such as Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, Florida, Indiana, and Kentucky as well. In contrast, Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, secured only 19 states, bringing an end to her bid for the presidency. Now, just a short while ago, we actually dipped into the president-elect, which is Donald Trump once again. What has been key during these elections and during every U.S. election is something called a swing state. Now, the reason it's called a swing state is because it could either swing to the red or the blue, the Republicans or the Democrats. That's why they're also called purple states, because it's a mix of red and blue. You don't know which side they're going to swing, essentially. Now, from the morning itself, and interestingly what pollsters had also predicted in the run-up to these very significant U.S. elections, where we're seeing Trump essentially make a return. He's going to the White House once again. During these elections, and today itself, one of the key swing states was Georgia, North Carolina, which he had won just before Georgia, and that was a projection in the morning itself, was something that he had also won, and that was the only swing state that he had won back in 2020 when it was versus Biden. But Georgia became the first flip state that we saw with the elections. Now, there have been a few hints throughout the day of the defeat that the Democrats are currently dealing with. And one of those hints was when an event at the alma mater of Kamala Harris, Howard University, had canceled an address that she was set to make. And then there were celebration shots of Trump, with many around him clapping. Now, to get us more on how significant all of this is and what the impact is, we're crossing over to my colleague Rithangshu. Rithangshu, we've just discussed a little bit about the swing states. Something that's unprecedented during these elections is Trump essentially getting all of them, all 7 swing states. Not even purple, not one is even blue, but all red. So we're seeing a red mirage in a sort of way. But it's also very key because Trump has finally gotten to breach the blue wall, something that pollsters hadn't even predicted. Pollsters, in fact, had predicted that it was going to be a neck-and-neck struggle. Tell us more about how significant today's election has been when it comes to the final counting of the results.
There are so many takeaways from this, Aisha. Where to even begin? First is, let's start with, as you pointed out, the 7 swing states here. I don't remember the last time it has happened in recent time that we have had all 7 swing states voting for the same party here. So it's, if I could use a term which we have often used a lot in Indian electioneering, it's been a landslide, a Trump tsunami in many ways, because all 7 states in various degrees voting for Donald Trump, including states like, for instance, Georgia, which had voted for Biden just 4 years ago, states like Pennsylvania, with 19 electoral votes, they've all voted for Trump. So this is a huge victory here. What this means is that we're looking, again, irrespective of what the scoreline at the bottom of our screens might show, because once all the projections are confirmed and all the states are called, we are looking at a final score of 312 to Donald Trump versus 226 to Kamala Harris. Now, that is the worst performance by the Democrats or the best performance by the Republicans in 40 years. So Donald Trump is going to achieve something which his party has not achieved in 40 years. That is the second big historic factor that's coming in. The third big history-making date reality which we are looking at is it's not just the number of electoral votes which Donald Trump has won by a majority, it's also the popular vote itself. Now remember, American elections have this very curious dichotomy where it is possible to get the maximum number of popular votes but still lose out on the electoral votes and as a result lose out on the presidency. It has happened 5 times in America's history. Most recently it happened in 2002 and in 2016 where Donald Trump won the presidency to the number of electoral votes but did not get the popular vote. That went to Hillary Clinton. Of course, he didn't get it in 2020 either. This time, for the first time in 3 attempts, he's also swept the popular vote, getting more than 51% of the vote. So in every way you slice and dice it, it is a resounding victory for Donald Trump. And he's also become the first president in more than 200 years to have a non-consecutive term at the office here. That gives you an indicator, Aisha, of how difficult is it for a candidate to bounce back after losing an election here. For 200 years, the unsaid rule is if you lose an election, your career is over. You don't get another chance at becoming the president of the United States, and even if you do, you rarely win. Donald Trump has beaten that norm. He's come back to the White House after being out for 4 years in the wilderness, and that's the fourth key takeaway and the first history point being made. The final point, Aisha, is what we are seeing in terms of how badly pollsters are getting it wrong. It's unfortunately a trend that we have seen in India in the last few elections, both at the state level and at the Lok Sabha level as well. Even this time as well, for the longest time, Kamala Harris was projected as the clear frontrunner. Even till yesterday when counting was going on, it was a close contest with an edge being given to Kamala Harris. The results show that it's been anything but a close contest here, which is an indication once again of the fact that the mainstream media has got wrong. And perhaps the most important historical point, which the trendsetter or game changer that we have seen in this election, Aisha, before I hand it over to you, has been the rise of the alternate media, the non-mainstream media. We see the tremendous impact someone like an Elon Musk has done through using Twitter, which now is known as X, to galvanize support for Donald Trump. You've seen the enormous support someone like a Joe Rogan carried out through his podcasts with both Kamala Harris and with Donald Trump in the form of drumming up support for Donald Trump here. These were alternative media sources which capitalized on the sentiment that the mainstream media is biased, the mainstream media is sold out, the mainstream media is left-leaning, it's Democrat-leaning, it's in the blue urban states, doesn't represent that of the core patriotic, red-blooded, rednecked American voter, and they've capitalized it. So mainstream media also has something to look into it. It's no longer the default stay option, at least for news information, at least in America, and these are implications which will have a seismic impact on not just America and the rest of the world in the years to come.
Absolutely. Tangshu, thank you so much for joining us. And